Hey everyone, it's Steve again, and I'm back with a new coding project. This time we're not learning a new software, but rediscovering one we all take for granted. Microsoft Excel. I wanted a project where I could relearn the basics of Excel, write my own custom functions, and even pick up some Visual Basic. And since I have a game design background, why not make it a game? Here's how it works. You direct a team of worker mice in the sizing room of a cheese factory. Random-sized cheese chunks are dropped off, where they pass through a two-chamber conveyor belt. And in each of these chambers, you can place your 10 available worker mice. Your goal is to get the cheese into correctly sized chunks, and correctly sized cheese chunks are added to your score, which you use to meet that round's quota. There's three kinds of workers. Nibblers will find the largest unclaimed piece of cheese and nibble it in two, with one of the pieces being twice as large as the other. Scouts will identify and remove correctly sized cheese chunks and move them to the goal. And welders will find the two smallest unclaimed pieces and combine them to one. They will act one worker type at a time in two consecutive sets. Which mice you put where, and how many mice you choose to use, will have a big effect on the final array of cheese chunks. The scoring system is a bit unusual, but it was easier to playtest this way. Every time you increase or decrease a mouse worker type, that counts as one turn. When you get a successful result, your turn count is factored into your average turn score. When you're finished and ready, you can press the next round button to roll a new set of cheese. But if you haven't finished the previous round, this will count to your skip frequency. That's used to calculate a score multiplier, which converts average turns into average cost. The goal of the game is to get the best average cost, and the good news is that you keep your mice count between rounds, so you can try to engineer the perfect setup that will push your costs lower and lower. Is it a good game? No, not really. It's kind of unintuitive, awkwardly balanced, and there's nothing to prevent unwinnable scenarios. But was it a great learning exercise? Absolutely. If we go behind the scenes to the back-end sheet, we can see the real calculations at work. To be adding and removing and rearranging cheese pieces, we needed multiple phases for each mouse type. I'm sure it would be easier to have done Visual Basic here, but my goal was to see where I could take the formulas. And I took them pretty far. Here are some of the recurring tricks I used. First off, the large and small formulas. Being able to get the largest, or second largest, or say, fourth smallest of a list of entries proved super useful, since I could use that phase's mouse count to get the relevant rank. The second trick is adding tiny decimals, unique to each row, and then removing them later. The formulas get unpredictable when there are identical values in a range, so I made sure that every value is totally unique. And all that works really good, but eventually I hit a limit to what I could do with formulas, and it seemed time to add in some Visual Basic. The first thing I needed to do was get a random seed working. Each round's starting values needed a new seed, but one that would stay the same from turn to turn. Thankfully, Visual Basic has some very quick and easy code to get this working. Similarly, adding in the buttons was pretty easy, with each one assigned their own little function. For the 12 arrow buttons, their functions all cast the same larger function, just sending in different values. And lastly, I wanted the mouse characters to take slightly different poses to match their conditional dialogue. After trying out different ways to do this, I settled on just hiding the unused poses behind a white panel. Not the cleverest way, but it was the easiest to adjust. And that's that. Overall, a good chance to learn and a fun little project. The best thing I learned is that when you add modules to your Excel project, you have to save it as an XLSM file, or else you might lose your code. Whoops. The worst thing I learned was just how easy it is to put responsive cartoon characters in your spreadsheet. Some future coworker is definitely going to hate me for this.